Welcome back to Orange Track Outlaws. Today we're going to tackle this Hot Wheels Porsche P911. We're going to give this a nice little restoration. We're going to give it some fancy Spectraflame red paint. We're going to polish that dull base up. We're gonna update the wheels a little bit and give it some fresh new tampos. We're gonna make this thing shine and look really good. What a great casting this Porsche is. I think it's one of my favorites. All metal, so somewhat old school, really cool. But let's get started. So here comes our new project on our custom flatbed hauler. What we have here is the Hot Wheels Porsche P911 in the red with the yellow tampos on it. It's got the gold rims. It's got some faded paint, tarnished base, but let's get into pulling this thing apart. First thing we're going to do is we're going to center punch the posts out so we can give a good spot for our pilot hole to go. Makes the pilot hole go in much easier. It doesn't slip and slide around when you try to get started. But we're going to take our little drill bit. We're going to drill a little pilot hole that should go just below the base. Just something to get started. You don't want to go too deep yet because sometimes the post can get a little crazy on you underneath there. We're going to change our drill bit here, and we're just going to try to buzz off the heads of these posts. Just enough right down to the base there, so they pop right off. We're going to take our screwdriver here. If you did it right, this thing should pop right off, which this does. No problem here. We're going to take this thing apart, see what the interior looks like, see what we got to work with. We've got a pretty dirty interior. Unique one though, the windshield is all connected. So we're going to hit that thing with some soap and water and get that cleaned up. Base is in good shape other than it's just a little dull. Just needs a little wire wheel, a little polish. You can tell here that the body is in pretty good shape, but we're still going to throw it in the sandblaster and polish it up. But first thing we're going to do here is we're going to sand all the burrs off these posts. Help this thing go back together nice and easy before we drill them out. So here we are. We're going to clean up this chassis here in our little grinder box. Sorry for the kind of hard to see in here, but I do like the plexiglass shield in front of my face, so none of those little wires fling out at me, and when I'm polishing it doesn't fling that polish all over the place. But on this chassis we're going to hit it with the wire wheel. We're going to clean it up here real good. It's really not going to take a whole lot of doing this. Like I said, it was in pretty good shape. It's just going to need that outer layer tarnish, sand it off there, and here's a good look at it. Just by cleaning up with the wire wheel, it's really looking pretty good there. Here's a look at our body after it come out of the sandblaster. It does have a little bit of that sandblast haze on there, so we're also going to hit that with our wire wheel, just nice and light, just to get all that off there. When we're done with that, the body's actually in pretty good shape. We're going to hit it with a little triple aught steel wool to try to shine it up a little more before we go to polish. But give you a little look here. You can see that it's real nice and straight hitting that thing. But we're going to move on to polishing the chassis here. We got our Flitz polish. Just put it on. Just a little goes a long ways. So just kind of rub it around there with the polisher before you turn it on, and then just go on your first setting on your Dremel, nice and easy. and just work that polish into the metal. Just go nice and slow. It's going to turn black. It's going to get just a little runny, and then it's gonna start getting it's gonna heat it up a little bit, and then that polisher is gonna start doing its job. It's gonna take that polish off there and gonna leave you with a nice shiny piece of metal. Like I said, nice and slow, and you'll really like your outcome here. So just about done. Pull it out here and show you how our chassis is nice and shiny. That really looks good. So we're going to move on to some paint. We got our body polished up. Didn't want to bore you with all that, but I got myself a little homemade Spectra Flame. I use a 2K clear, which is mine is 2-to-1, 2 clear to 1 hardener, and I put a good bit of Spectra Flame red in there to dye it, and then we're going to put our first light tack coat on. Just try to get some full coverage here, something for the rest of that paint to stick to. I think we're just about done with our tack coat. We're going to start our second coat. We're not going to really start to layer it on just yet. We're going to go a little heavier in that tack coat, but not super heavy just yet. But we want to start trying to build that red color up. Initial idea was to kind of go for the original kind of color red that it came with, that nice bright cherry red, but with the Spectra Flame, it's going to turn out just a little on the darker side, but it's going to look really cool. So next coat here, I think this is the third coat. Now we're going to start layering on this clear here, and with the red, and just try to keep and build that color up. With the Spectra Flame, you want to keep it moving, keep the car moving, keep the spray going in the different directions. Make sure you get around the car, and now we can start building that color up. So you can just see just by those first couple sprays there in this coat that color is really starting to come out now. Really liking the progress here. This is really exactly what I'm going for. I'm looking for that nice shiny deep red look, and I think we're going to give this one more go at it and really build that red up, and then I think that'll be about it. But yeah, look at this. You can see that red turning just a little darker with every spray. Real happy with it. Kind of like a old school meets new school kind of look. And this thing is going to look fast, and it's going to look cool. So we're just going to check it out, get a close-up look at it. Just going to layer on just a little bit more, and I'll show you here in a second. Pretty much I'm going to stop right here. I got the red color I'm looking for. You can see that 2K clear is real nice and shiny. So next up, we are going to start putting our new tampos on here. Pretty straightforward here with these water slide decals. You want to trim them down to fit, basically. Put them in a little warm water for 15-20 seconds or so, and it should be ready to go. Pull it out of your water, and then you can get it on your car. Use like a damp Q-tip to kind of help you slide the decal off. Use your tweezers to pull out the lower there, the back part. Pretty simple. You can just go around it with your Q-tip, moving it in place with your Q-tip and your tweezers, and as long as you have that damn Q-tip, it should help move that thing around. Once you think you got it in place, I always like to dab the Q-tip, try to push out all the water that's underneath, and just try to, get any extra water off of there. So it's really pretty straightforward operation. I think it's sharp. Um, there is a good bit of tampos on here with the hood, the roof, and the back, and the two sides. And once I get that done, let everything dry up. I will go over it one more time with a little more of the clear, just to get those tampos set under a protective clear coat. So this is really turning out better than expected, actually. I think you guys are really gonna like the end result here. Would like to thank you guys again for tuning in and watching another one of my restorations. I do have more coming up. I got a handful of projects I'm into right now, so please stay tuned for more for sure. You can get a look here at our finished tampo project. I'm liking it. I'm digging this a lot. I think it looks way better than it was originally. Next up here, we are going to fix our axle tubes and put our wheels in. Normal procedure here with the brass tubing. Take your X-Acto knife, trim it to fit, and don't forget to take your drill bit that's the same size as your tubing and kind of hollow out those grooves so that fits in there. But take your little axle tube and you can just grind the edges down a little bit, and then grind out just a little groove in each side, so that when your axles slide in there, it makes it way easier to super glue them things in. So I'm just taking a piece of piano wire, hollowing it out just in case there's any burrs or anything in there. That'll stop the new cut down axles from going in. So like I said, you see there, if you hollowed out where the axles go prior, then they will just slide into place real nice. And you just hit them guys with a little super glue there right in the middle, and they won't go anywhere. Really pretty easy operation there. So you just want to make sure your axle tubes are centered up before you glue them down, and then really you should be good to go. It doesn't take a whole lot extra. Next up, you're going to make your cut tubes down so they don't hit in the middle. Make sure your tires go in all the way. You can take a little screwdriver and you can push the axle into the center of the wheel, just like that there. Make sure they don't hit, make sure they go all the way in. And then I like to take my screwdriver, just space them off that axle just a little bit so they can spin freely, and then I'm all set and ready to glue. So now you can see you just put a little drop of super glue in those grooves that you cut in earlier, and then once this thing dries and sets, you'll be all set. Your wheels should spin freely just like normal, and you should have no issues. So I'm just going to get the rears glued in here real quick, and we will be ready for final assembly here shortly. So that's looking good. You can see I initially put the old wheels back on. I cleaned them up and repainted them with the gold paint pen, but as you see here, when I got to looking at it, I wanted that new school looking that looked for it, so I had some new gold wheels I took the old ones out, put the new ones in. They look much better. Our interior's cleaned up. Our windshields was soaked in some floor polish. That's looking good. Everything's nice and clean, polished, shined up. We're going to take some of our self-tapping screws here, put everything back together. Big fan of the self-tappers. I did drill the post out earlier off camera, pretty boring there. I did not tap the post because I do have these self-tappers. You know, just cuts down on a little bit of time, and definitely helps out. So once we're done screwing these in nice and tight here, we're going to do a quick recap with what we started with. So here we have our Hot Wheels Porsche P911, all metal, really old faded red paint job. Tampos are all, for the most part, worn out and or worn off. We got some old school gold rims that are kind of worn out. So windshield's all scratched up and looking ratty. So, you know, after all that work, new paint job, new wheels, new polish job, this is what we ended up with. This is our new school meets old school Hot Wheels Porsche P911 with the red Spectra Flame paint, polished up chassis, new gold rims, new tampos. I don't know about you, I think this thing looks sweet. Real happy how it turned out. Like I said, one of my favorite Porsche castings. This thing looks fast. It looks slick. Real happy with it. Hope you guys like it. I want to thank you guys for watching another one of my restorations. Like I said earlier, I've got a couple more coming up. We do have the Red Line Day coming up. We got the 3 Blind Mice May edition with the 66 Nova, and also the 50s car for the 3 Blind Mice. Look out for those. Also check out my channel for the rest of my races. I do have a lot of races going on if you like watching these things race. And please hit that subscribe button and share and hit that bell, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot. See you.